It is good to have you back. If you're just joining us, this is Firecrackers and we are just about to get started. I have with me here in the studio Bolaon Lojede, an economy expert. Many thanks for being on the show with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
And we also have joining us live from Ibadan, Niyi Aborishade, a legal practitioner and human rights activist. Many thanks for being with us on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now moving on to the topic we have at hand, that is concerning President Tinubu's national broadcast message to Nigerians. The president has assured us that he is not blind or deaf to the complaints of the citizens of Nigeria on the removal of fuel subsidy, and he came up with some plans to try to cushion the effect of this fuel subsidy. So let us look at the number of things that the president said he would try to make sure they are in place to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal for Nigerians. How visible is it? Because when we try to relate it to how our economy is at this point in time.
Quite a number of them are not exactly new problems that we're just identifying. So they are problems that have been there for a while. So what I think the president was speaking to are that we are ready to deal with those matters. You can take the agriculture sector, for example. Food inflation is always way ahead of the general inflation, which means that if you solve food inflation, you will reduce the composite inflation figure that we have in the country. So dealing with that via its agriculture program will help a great deal to moderate the effect of the current inflationary pressure occasioned by the two major policies that he put in place. So you think about things like seasonality. Seasonality is that thing that makes tomatoes to be in heaps in December, and by May there are only 3 tomatoes in that heap. And if you dare to price it, the market woman will almost curse you because it is planted only in a particular season, and through the rest of other season it is out of season. It's expensive. So what he was saying is that, look, we don't have to wait for the rain to plant. We have the capacity to do planting, and all through the year, 12 months of plant, we can do it. So if he's able to implement it, the good thing about planting is that most of the food related items are short cycle. In fact, if on May 29 we have put new plantation into maize, 3 months after we will be eating the maize. So the cycle of the food items are short. If we are determined to make a difference in the production of food items, and the land is put on the on the table, we have water, irrigated land is also available, and government makes available fertilizer, seedlings, and is willing to educate the farmers on best farm practice, we will deal with food matters in the short term, and it will be able to help us moderate the inflationary pressure that we're feeling. He also spoke about storage. These are problems that have been there forever. He talked about rural roads, so where this production is going on. Because one of the problems we have, which lead to a lot of damages to a lot of food produce get rotten every year, is because there's a disconnect between where they are produced and where they are consumed. In some instances, when you see the roads to those farms, you will marvel how anything ever come out of those places. So you see situations in which like 40%, 50% in certain product categories get bad because you can't move, for example, say tomatoes, you're unable to move them out of the place in good time. So if we deal with transportation, we deal with roads into those rural areas. If we deal with storage issues is a bit complicated because there's also the power side to storage issues. We will actually be able to start making impact on the problem on the ground. Of course, the speech went beyond the agri sector,
yes,
but I think
definitely.
the agri is a significant
Okay,
portion.
all right, let's hear from Niyi Aborishade. It is no news that this current economy is not favorable to lots of Nigerians. A lot of people are crying out loud. No one is completely happy with the situation we have on ground. And with the promises the president made during his national broadcast message, do you feel this might be enough to maybe cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal that is our reality now?
As a matter of fact, made by President Tinubu. It's still why that we have not had that kind of speech. A very, very lucid and a wonderful speech. It's like a music to the hearing of the people. When we had it, this a president that is listening to the people. But there's a caveat. The caveat is this: mere words or rhetoric is not sufficient to assure the sovereignty of the people. The current situation now demands for immediate relief. Our people are sovereign. We've heard him, he made a promise. But there is a weakness that is noted in his speech. It appears there was no blueprint before the removal of subsidy, or the removal of subsidy, I mean. Okay, if there has been a blueprint before the removal, that should have been addressed, not now, when everybody is crying in the country. The price of fuel is now 617 naira. Now it is now the time that the president said he's going to review the salary of the workers. That should have been done. That means there was no plan for the aftermath of the removal of subsidy. Whereas he had sufficient time to prepare himself for the removal of subsidy. It was part of his campaign that he will remove the subsidy. That's okay. The removal of subsidy is welcomed by everyone. But what is the contingent plan for that removal? That was the problem. That is where we are today. And now, of course, he has addressed it. But how long will it take for the people to continue to suffer in this situation? So what the government needs to do now, apart from this good oratory speech, is to address and provide immediate relief to caution the effects of the subsidy removal in the country. All what he says, what I expect of him, is a man of political experience. And we are all looking forward to a tremendous change in his government. But so far, so good. There's nothing to write home about now. As a matter of fact, we have to be factual. We have to be realistic. Of course, the speech is fantastic. But that's right. Until we started seeing the produce of that speech, that's when we can now see we are now moving into a good government. But for now, people are crying. That's a serious problem in this country. And that must be addressed immediately by this government. Thank you very much.
And we have from Niyi Aborisha, the legal practitioner and human rights activist. He mentioned that there was no blueprint for removal of fuel subsidy, and these are things that should have been predetermined, not just now. Do you agree with that? Perhaps that is why we are in this problem we have right now.
From all indications, because I said something in my former comment. I said some of the food items that we are now going to focus on under this agric initiative. If you have planted the maize on May 29, it will almost be due for harvesting by now. So which means the entire speech that we heard last week could as well have been come on May 30th, because all that is necessary to have determined each of those actions to be taken were already available as of May 29. So if the plan had been there, we could have rolled out on May 30, and by now, some of these issues will be here. So the fact that it didn't happen shows that maybe it wasn't there at that time. So we're just taking life one day at a time, and that is why this is hitting us the way it is hitting us. One thing we can now do, since we're already here anyway, that we can't roll back the hands of time, is to say, look, if there are 10 items and you're still working on 6 of them, the ones that are ready, please deploy. For example, releasing grains from the National Reserve doesn't take much effort. The documentation and all the rest could be worked out, in my opinion, within a week or 2, and these grains could be released. Will it make an impact? Yes. I do grains sometimes. It's almost season for maize now, and I'm going to do maize. When you look at maize in around September, October, it could be maybe 100,000, 120,000 per ton. That same maize, by May of the following year, is about 250,000 per ton. So releasing grains alone, apart from direct consumption, 60% of animal feed is maize. So it means that chicken, piggery, all those other things will also be affected. So it has a multiplier effect on dousing the food pressure. So that one, release that one. The issue of seasonality, if you plant maize today, you still have to wait for 3 months anyway. So you can kick that in the process. Then look at all the other things that could be deployed in the immediate and deploy them in the, let people begin to feel those impacts while you work on the other things that might take a little bit of time. For example, issues of wages, you can't snap your fingers and agree on wages. It requires thinking through properly. So those ones might take a few more weeks before it can happen. But those ones that can happen now, we should and must deploy. We're already late in the day.
Okay, all right, because about 2 weeks ago, when the National Executive Council meeting held, it was one of the things that were discussed that the directed NEMA to release some of the grains they have at their facility, and also the controversial issues, so to speak, on giving 8,000 naira to about 12 million Nigerians to be able to feed themselves for about a month. All those things we could say that the plans have already been in place. But you have to agree with me that one of the issues Nigerians always have is plan, but implementation is always so poor or not at all. And then we have the president coming up with this. Some people have called this fantastic. Some I do not approve of it. But we have all these plans in place. Now, how would you say implementation is to these plans? Because if we have numerous plans and then there is no follow through, or then it's all just speech, no action is being taken. That is the issues Nigerians are having right now. And would we blame them for worrying about that?
Nigerians have been abused over and over again. So they are naturally skeptical and they are disillusioned. So the only way for government to build trust with them again is to be able to move beyond the speeches to actual action, which is why I said, if we are talking about 10 things and 6 are not ready or cannot be done right now, it is 4 that are ready. Launch the 4. Let them begin to feel the impact of those 4 while you continue to work on the other ones. But if we are waiting all the way to be able to roll out 10 or 12 or 15 things at a time, Nigerians will get impatient. They will start to lose the trust that the government indeed meant well for them. So there is no doubt in my mind that we must move beyond the rhetorics, beyond the speeches, into that place of action that Nigerians want to see.
Okay, all right. Over to Ni Aborishade, how would you rate the mood of the people right now? How would you rate the attitude of Nigerians towards all this promised palliative, subsidy removal? As a human rights lawyer now, are you happy with how people have been, their reactions? Because we could have it worse, judging by what that is obtainable in other countries.
Our people are apprehensive and they are despondent about all the promises. Chief Obafemi Awolowo thought that there's a huge difference between the time you make a promise and the time of fulfillment. The problem with us in Nigeria, the government will make a promise and you see poor implementation of that promise. We have seen that during the COVID period, when they are sending palliatives to the people, how many people benefited? They said they freed some people, they took food stuff to some people, but some people did not benefit from it. That is the problem, and that is the situation. And when we talk of just increment of the wages for the civil servant, it is not only the civil servant that are in Nigeria. There are artisans. There are artisans. There are welders, meat sellers, foodstuff sellers, and all those. How are they going to take care of those people? Now, the president promised a soft loan to help the people. Now, another problem is the implementation of the loan. Those that from experience, those that will benefit from this soft loans are those that are not even in need of it. Because to access this loan, some of the people, the poorest of the poor, who actually needed this loan, they don't even have accounts. So there's a huge problem. What the government can do is to create an environment, an enabling environment where things will be okay. They must find means to reduce the price of fuel, because the price, the increment to 670 naira has significant influence on all other things. The main seller will take transport to the market, so it has to increase what he's selling. The foodstuff, the iron, but all of them, there's no one that will not take transportation. That means the issue of increment in fuel is fundamental. So the subsidy removal is okay, but what is the government doing? That means they have to go back to the drawing board. The refineries, Nigeria, all the four refineries that we have in Nigeria must start working. Government has to make sure that they are functioning. All the refineries. If the refineries are functioning, then it appears the price of fuel might go down, because the increment is not the forces of the market. It's because we are importing it, and therefore the government has to subsidize the importation, the cost. But if we are producing it locally, if we are refining our fuel locally, then there will be the price will reduce drastically. And that's why what I will encourage the federal government to do now, to work on how the refineries will return to normal. Imagine us having 4 refineries in this country and nothing is working. President Buhari told us before he left, when he won the election, that he will carry out the repair on all the 4 refineries. Unfortunately, he did not do anything. As a matter of fact, he spent building refineries to Nigeria and things like that. But thank God we have a president that is listening to the voice of the people. Now is the time to repair all the 4 refineries in Nigeria and ensure that they are functioning properly. That will bring succor to the life of the people. If the price of fuel can come down, we all agree that the subsidy removal is a good thing for the country, because only the few people are benefiting from it, not the whole Nigerians. But the increment of fuel is affecting all the Nigerians. And those who are benefiting from it, they have sufficient money. They are not crying, but only the people. How long should our people continue to suffer? And you are telling us to endure. It's how long can we endure the problem? How long can we endure the suffering? How long can we endure the poverty? How long can we endure starvation? If these issues are not addressed, the people will move out into the streets one day and they will be attacking the rich people, because the suffering is too much. It's too much. The hardship on people is too much. A lot of people are calling on their people abroad to send them money because they cannot afford 3 square meal a day. And this is the effect of what is happening in Nigeria. Imagine the minimum wage is 30,000 naira. So how with a family, a man married and have 2 children, how long? What will 30,000 naira do now if he starts taking transport to work and come back? It's so sad. It's so bad in this country. Something has to be done, and the government must go back to the drawing board and do something to alleviate the sufferings of our people.
Yes, indeed. It makes one think of the humble words of the president that has been turned into a meme. That is, let the poor breathe. Although we've been warned by the Senate not to make light of those words, and it is said to really consider the poor people in Nigeria is not to, but let us look at all these policies and everything we have right now in Nigeria. Are they really letting the poor breathe? Because according to what the Aborisha they said now, it said that the 4 refineries are supposed to be functioning. Although a lot of people have expressed conflicting opinions about the old subsidy removal. Some people feel we can't afford it as a nation, and it being removed does not really cushion anything. Nigeria has money, and then the money could as well be used to help people. And the refineries are not yet working. Or in the president's broadcast message, nothing was said about maybe allocating some amount of money to making sure that the refineries are working. And that we have everything in a, I don't want to use the word mess, because perhaps that would not be fair to the efforts of the federal government and all that. But would you not say, because with everything we have at hand now, would you not agree that perhaps the removal of fuel subsidy completely was hasty?
Okay, let's start from the refineries. I hear people from time to time say, why not this money you want to give us, why not put it in the refineries, do this? the contract for the refineries have been awarded. People have been paid. One money, you want to dash them money? The contract has been awarded. As a matter of fact, the Port Harcourt refinery, the phase 3 and the last phase was to have been completed last month, June. No, June is already 2 months ago. Anyway,
July?
it was June. It was meant to have been completed in June. But for whatever reason, obviously it wasn't. It was after this speech, I guess a lot of people, including myself, wondered why the refineries were not mentioned. And so the government later reacted to that and said, oh, the Port Harcourt refineries will start to produce by December. Now, there is also the Warri refinery. It had also been awarded by the previous government. We don't need to go and pump another money. And the contractor is on site and it's working. But when will it be completed? My point is that Nigerians need to know when these expectations will come to reality. And they also don't have to be lied to. It is better you tell me December than you tell me it will be September. And September comes and I don't see the fuel. Kaduna was also awarded. Kaduna has a problem because the contractor could not move to site because of insecurity. It would be nice to also speak to that and say, oh, okay, the contractor has now moved to site because we've been able to deal with the insecurity around the Kaduna refineries. There is a private refinery as well. Now, I'm even cautious these days to speak about the private refinery because it is beginning to appear to me as if we are not being told the whole truth.
Yeah, some people have,
yes,
they have opined that it might just be something, the past administration, they just to get out of office and be like, oh, I did not leave them empty-handed, I did make preparations for something, and then we've gone. Because the Dangote refinery seemed to be the messiah a lot of people were looking up to. But now, we heard that it was supposed to start production by July, and we are very much into August
well,
now.
This is early August. You see, that is not even the problem. I've been to the refinery. I've seen the mega project that it represents. We've seen numbers all over the place. My concern is that we should be able to say with reasonable assurance when exactly it will start to produce. For me, I would rather someone, tell me, I might feel sad about it, that this refinery will start producing in September 2024. I'm just saying. Then you keep telling me every 2 months that it will start producing, we get to that point and the production doesn't happen. The question is, why can't we be straightforward about when it will start producing? That way, expectations are better managed. Let me tell you what happened in the recent increase in price of fuel. When subsidy was first removed, they went to about 500 naira, 490, some places 6, Then some weeks after, I went to the 617. What happened in between those two times was the collapse of the multiple rates of exchange that we have. So you have a product that was being given concessionary dollar rates through the CBN window before that collapse of multiple exchange rates. Now you remove that concessionary rate. You're saying there is no more 462. Everybody go to the market, go and get dollar at 750. Although it's a bit more tricky, but I think this is the best way to explain it. To just say, okay, the exchange rate moved from 462 official and went to 750. The item you are talking about is not produced in your country, which means you need that dollar that has moved up to buy it. What do you think will happen to the price of that item? It is automatic. It will go up. So that is the second phase that we have. If dollars continue, for whatever reason, to appreciate against the naira, it will come to a point again. There will be further increase. What will bring the price down are issues around refineries, number one. Number two, if that dollar rate decides to go down, there are some bookmakers who believe that, it will eventually settle at about 600 naira.
That is too much.
But if 600 to, do you know how much they sold dollar last week Friday? About 890 thereabout. So if you go from 890 and to 600, definitely that will be a significant improvement on the dollar issue. So we just have, the communication needs to be better, in my opinion. You need to carry people along and carry them along with honesty of purpose. Let them be able to understand that you mean well and that you're not deceiving them. Then they can, they can support your effort, because they know that if you said December, it means December. The issue of supply of crude is another, what I would have called a low-hanging fruit, but we're not seeing the result. What do I mean by low-hanging fruit? Over 90% of the foreign exchange earning in Nigeria is from crude. And we know what has happened to our crude over the last few years. It's been long coming, though, but the last year was particularly bad. Then it started to come up. If we're able to rev up that production, the implication is that we will earn more foreign exchange. Our foreign exchange supply will improve. If it improves, it will help us with this exchange rate that is messing up everywhere. And therefore, it will help to stabilize prices generally. But it's a lot of work. I don't envy them, but I just want better communication with what is going on. I don't think, because I think Mr. Borishade probably hinted on maybe a possibility that we'll go back on that fuel subsidy policy. I don't think it will happen. I think the fuel subsidy removal has come to stay. So our efforts should be geared at putting pressure on